Hello, guys.
Hi.
It's been a week. It's been a whole week.
Oh yeah, we only stream 1 day a week now, but we're doing great things on the other days.
We're trying to connect with our communities.
Should we tell them what we're doing?
Please.
So on Monday, so we've renamed the days of the week.
Yeah.
Monday for us is now known as
Grind Day.
And Tuesday is, I forgot what Tuesday was called.
Thinky Day.
Thinky Day. Might need to rethinky that one.
Okay. Wednesday.
Wednesday is
Connect.
Connect Day. Thursday is Tangible Day, TT. And Friday is Confrontation Day. And on Grind Day, we just try to grind and do as much content creation and engagement as we can. On Thinky Day, we stream and we talk through concepts and ideas and the tools and rules. On Connection Day, last week we spent all of it in the house.
Yeah.
But this week, inshallah, what we want to do is we actually want to go out and connect with people in the community. And something we tried to do on Friday, for full transparency, both of us came to a conclusion that our motivations weren't aligned with us as people and the thing that we're trying to do. And so on Friday, we went out with the hope of making content by interacting with our community. But then when we realized what we were doing, when we were approaching people, we were telling them that we were trying to get an understanding of the sentiment in our communities, which was true, but the underlying goal there and our motivation for actually being there was content. And both of us felt a little bit uncomfortable about that. So Connection Day this week, tomorrow is going to be just us going and speaking to, I think it's going to be great. I want to set a target of speaking to 100 people each.
She's a Mazzaline.
I want to split up and try to, I think,
each.
100 each.
100 each? So do 200?
Each, but we split up.
So we do 200?
Yeah, so we split up, then it's just 100 each.
You're a touchy, you know.
I think we can try. It's good to set your aims high
and
rather
fail.
than saying, it's okay if we fail, but we must be brave. And I think that's a big thing for me. I'm scared of rejection. I'm scared of someone saying, of embarrassment, of someone saying, no, I don't want to talk to you, little girl, go away. I mean, I wish they call me a little girl, and I'm like, hide your white hairs, Mario.
Yo, kids get stressed young these days, okay?
All
these
true.
exams,
I
GCSEs.
had white hairs when I was 18. Yeah, so Connection Day should be interesting. And if it's raining, do you know what? If it's weather like this, it would be great.
Yeah.
Because it's cool, people are outside having their lunch and stuff.
The thing is, when someone's walking, almost by definition, they've got something to do, they've got a place to be. And so intersecting.
Just walk with them. Say, hey bro, would you mind if I walked with you?
Hey bro. He's like, oh no, I don't give a fuck. So, what you wearing?
What you wearing underneath?
Oh, whoa.
Nothing? Alright.
Same. You know, we got a commonality right there. We both got skin.
So download my app!
What was that?
Gary Vee talking about community and customers. It's like you offer them nothing, but you want them to do something for you. Commonality is unity. Now download my app.
We gotta give a little to get a little.
You have to give more to get in the future. You have to give everything today to get molecules. What did you call it? Mollusks. What did you say? You said something. What was it called? Minuscule.
No.
Mollusks.
It was like your blusher.
Yeah.
Morsel.
Mollusks.
So he says jab, 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 right hook. So you give, and then you ask.
Yeah, but you give for a really long time before you even consider asking.
Give for a really long time. Like I'm pumping the heart. So, in terms of community, one thing that community needs, one of the fundamental things about community is trust.
Yep.
So the analogy that I did, let's hop on.
Jump straight in.
Right into it. We're doing trust today.
What?
Someone in the comments about TikTok was like, the accents. I was like, woohoo! Someone actually
That was really fun though. Doing those accents, I think, made it fun.
So this is the way that I visualized it. I was like, look at the current system that we're in, bro. Okay.
Are these institutions?
So this right here is the big bad bank. Okay.
Can you tell I'm addicted to coffee? Bank.
Well, me and bank have 2 letters in common. Interesting. I'm just not a nk.
Bah.
How
does that make you feel?
I have a lot of responsibility. So you have these little youth then, and they're like, I have a bright idea.
Kids.
Right?
People who aren't from where we're from.
I have a little idea to create some kind of system. This is the symbol for system.
Do it again. It's a circle with an arrow inside at the point of connection.
Damn straight it is. And so this user, this human being, has an idea and they want to make a system, right? And
what do you mean by system? Because now you're introducing an idea that we haven't introduced. And for me, when you first told me, I was like, oh, what you want about me? That's a circle with an arrow.
Okay.
But I like your explanation of system. Once you told me, I started seeing systems everywhere. So I think the best way to do it is give an example. Like,
I was going to do drop shipping.
Yeah, go on.
So you have these individual points. Okay. So you have a factory in China, you have Alibaba, and you have Amazon Marketplace, and here you have Google AdSense. And the system would be, the user would first, via Alibaba, contact the factory, then make the payment through Alibaba, then send that shipping address to the Amazon warehouse, and then try and sell that product through Google AdSense, through marketing, and use some of that money to again give money to the factory in China, and this would create a closed loop.
But would the factory be in that system?
Because the factory is the one that's making the products.
Yeah, but the system, so there are systems within systems, and I would argue that the system, the factory is part of Alibaba's system, but it's not part of the person's system who's ordering or selling or drop shipping via Amazon.
Yes, sure. It's more of a technical
I think it's more intuitive that way.
We could do it that way, for example.
Yeah. So I would say that you have multiple systems, and that's what I think was so intuitive about systems, how you can take an existing system and build a system on top of it. So before the system was this, right? Then the system became that, where that's kind of encompassed.
Yeah.
So technically it's like here. That system's encompassed by the new system. And there are embedded systems. So one thing you said was, oh, okay, so you have people doing trades, and then you have a dude who comes up with a bot that's able to beat the market, right? So he's created a bot. Now people want to replicate that, so you have people creating bots and selling access to bots, and then that's a new system on top of the existing stock market system, right? And yeah, I really like that explanation. So systems are perpetuating loops.
So let's make a little detour now that we're here.
Okay.
Today, I guess we're going to talk about sandbox, but I can use another word. How do we give value to the hands of the people that we're trying to help?
Yep.
In our tangible self, it's our community.
Yeah.
Digitally, it's creators and poor people. Poor people in the West have access to the internet. Usually.
Yeah.
In fact, they spend a lot of their time on the internet because it's very cheap. And so if you have a lifestyle that revolves around social media, then that's very sustainable. So the idea was, let's say we have an underlying. Okay, let's use an analogy from nature, because I love me taking inspiration from nature. So what you can do is you can take iron from the earth, right, from land, and you can. So in this patch of iron, there's obviously lots of tiny bits of dust of iron. Okay. You throw the iron into the ocean. The iron then becomes a unit, a place for plankton to attach to, and I believe the plankton eat it as well. Like the
iron?
Not the plankton. Is it plankton? No, the plankton's an animal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm talking about the
plant.
Yeah, the green stuff, like algae basically, right? So algae connect and start consuming this iron in some kind of way.
Okay.
So you start off with the iron, and then the algae start eating this. And then because there's algae there, then the shrimp and the plankton start eating the algae. And then because there are algae there, then you start getting larger shrimp, and eventually you can get fish. And so what they've realized is by just putting some iron powder into the ocean, you can, I think they were almost 10x'd the amount of yield of salmon or whatever the type of fish they were trying to collect.
Oh wow!
They massively increased the catch the subsequent year. And so the way that I see that
solution to climate change,
it can,
because algae
it can, and we'll watch a video about that at some point, because apparently it's a very, very good solution to climate change, and it's so good. Here's the argument. So the FBI basically came and busted his place open, and raided all this stuff.
First of all, how did we get here? This guy's trying to feed poor algae some iron, and then we jump. The FBI shot him in the head. Because
it's $1 trillion industry, right, to help climate change, and if all you have to do is get a bit of iron and dash it in the sea.
Shut your mouth. Shut your dirty mouth. Don't say these things. We literally have a sustainability company with an easy solution that doesn't make anyone any money. Stop it. Behave yourself.
So from this visualization, and you were talking about systems, you're talking about how you have an initial market, and then that creates kind of like tertiary markets in terms of you have trading, and then you have bots, and then you have the selling of bots or the trading of bots.
So is a system a market?
It can be. Yeah,
a market is a system.
A market is a system.
Okay. All right.
Or it can be. Yeah. Not hypothetically, not every market is a system, I guess.
Yeah, because we haven't.
Well, there's always exchange, isn't there? So there'll be some kind of loop. Yeah, probably every market is a system. And so, obviously, I could add arrows here, making these a system.
So that's a good analogy for explaining systems, how things build on top of
one another, right?
Yeah.
And so so now we started off with something quite small, and now we've got this massive.
And then humans on top of that.
Humans on top of that, right? This kind of like cascading, compounding set of value, let's say, or mass, or however you want it, energy. So I took that and I was like, that's very, very beautiful and interesting. Now, what if we took a morsel, but instead of iron, a little bit of cryptocurrency, $5, let's say, worth, $5 of stable coin.
$4.
$4 for kids. $4 of stable coin.
Mm-hmm.
Could we hypothetically start
that's a whole new world.
See, Mario, I'm just trying to expand your horizons.
Yeah.
You're just a kid from the hood.
I really am.
But you got so much potential. And so, could we hypothetically do the same thing or a similar thing? We start off with putting a little bit of value at the bottom, true, value that is undisputable, right? As opposed to like a painting or like a maxim or something like that. Actual currency. Something that can be actual currency.
Something they can do something with tangibly
at the bottom. And then around that, could other systems begin to form that sort of compound and start adding value on top of it?
Would you say that those systems would be emergent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't necessarily be we might be part of the initial creation.
Exactly.
Have to get something going.
Right. We have to put the dollars in, we have to set the rules. And then maybe like catalyze it a bit, do a bit of marketing or whatever.
Yeah, come up with an initial system upon which people have to get
something
creative.
They can copy. And then hopefully it just kind of keeps compounding. Now another secondary thing here is most people aren't born to be firefighters. Some are. Most people aren't born to be farmers. Some are. And in the same way, most people aren't born to be traders and investors, but they want to be, especially men, because they realize the system that we're in right now is bad, man. It's bad. It's amazing compared to our past. From where we're coming from, it's incredible. But in terms of what humans want, in terms of stability, in terms of freedom, in terms of self-actualization, it's still really bad for the vast majority of us. So when you're a young guy, speaking from experience, you think, what can I do to leverage my position in terms of knowledge, access to the internet, willingness to put more effort in, right? I'm going to read all these Q10 and K5 filings and whatever, learn about these companies, invest, try and make money. End goal is so I can make enough money to distance myself from the rat race.
Yeah.
And I lost that strain of thought. Okay, very cool. So this is the hope that I have, that we can put some value at the bottom. Okay, so that go back. So instead of being like, here's kind of the call to action or the pleading to the 20-year-old plus dude. Look, bro, you're probably going to lose money trading. You're probably going to lose money investing if you get the returns that you secretly want, right? If you can invest and make 10%. You can invest, maybe you make 20% if you get a bit risky because you're young. You can take risks when you're younger. But anything more than that, you're basically gambling. And you probably don't have that much money. If you did, you probably wouldn't be doing all this type of stuff. You'd be chilling, living your life. So if you only have £5,000, £1,000, £10,000, and you're making 10% on that, you make $1,000 a year. What's that going to do to you, really? You know what I mean? What's that extra $1,000 going to do? Just get a job. You make that in a month.
Compounded.
Exactly. Yeah, but how many years is that going to take? He wants the whole point. The whole reason he got into this is because he wants out of the system, not because he wants to go into the system and wait 20 years for this to compound and then he can leave. Might as well just work normally, kind of, in that sense. So the thing would be, instead of putting your money into an NFT, and instead of putting your money into some random shoe, this is a different you here, put some of your money, a reasonable amount, into one of these like blocks. And these blocks help fund a creative, right? Maybe even someone like you in the future, or you right now. And in this block, there'll be everything they need to survive, right? So let's say one block is worth like $400, let's say, right? depending where they are, and that includes food and rent, right? Not in the UK obviously, but food and rent and electricity and internet and software or whatever they need to make whatever they're trying to make. And there's going to be a few of these blocks going, depending how far along the system is. And eventually, if we have enough of these blocks, one of these guys or gals is going to make something beautiful, whether it's music or architecture or some kind of innovation in terms of like, hey guys, you want to grow vegetables in your garden? I'm going to make a kit that you can buy, whatever it is. And you will have some kind of small claim because you put in $40, right? And then that's like a tenth of this 400. And that was part of the blocks that this person needed to create this innovation. You will then have a small claim on this creation. Now,
is it
the question would be, is it financial or is it simply a claim? So
it's like the equivalent of a system that already exists like that would be accelerator programs, like Y Combinator will invest in a bunch of companies, probably knowing because history,
like 9 of them will fail.
Most of them will fail, and one of them will do well, like Stripe or Uber or Airbnb. They'll blow up, and that's what keeps them going. Now they have a financial investment in future earnings from that company, and that they own part of that. Is that what we're doing?
But, so the hope would be, so obviously wet the mouth a little bit in terms of you can probably make a little bit of money, but especially at the start, because why would I do this if I don't get money? But there are signs that people do that. Patreon, for example, people give crowdfunding, people give money just for a product, or people give money just to help something that they like. But in the future, the hopes would be that the idea of, because we want to quantize culture, the idea that culture is a real thing that is truly valuable to the community, and having claims on that culture is in itself a valuable thing to have. For example, to live in Paris in itself is a cultural emboldening. It gives you pride because you know the history of Paris. You know all the great things that have been created there, and the culture and the food and the architecture and the whatever. Brussels, a similar idea. And so just the idea, maybe you get no money, but you can say to your grandchildren, look, bro, when I was a youth like you, I had a choice, make money or help culture. And you know this Picasso 3.0? He was a little broke boy. He couldn't afford rent, but I was like, yeah, have a little bit of this, bro. And you're like, you're capping, granddad, you're capping. And then you pull out, yeah, exactly, pulls out the ledger.
Yeah, where you punk.
There's a clear line between me and him and the top. So that's the dream right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is financial.
But that's in the best of possible worlds.
Sure.
Which is a beautiful thing. Do they at least get their investment back?
So that's the thing. You can limit it. This is another thing which is amazing, which is links to the banks, links to trust, is that once you digitize a currency, which has happened, since we were born, basically, 99% of all pounds are digital. 1% are in actual cash. So this idea that how can something be digital? It's not real. It's like, you're right, it's not real, but let's not, keep you up at night. The fact that it's digital just kind of makes it more obvious to you that it is indeed not real. If you have digital currency, you can impose different rules upon the currency. Before, a few days ago, we were talking about universal basic income, right? So at the moment, if you want universal basic income, the bank probably prints money or backs some kind of loan that the banks then give to the populace, and then the populace probably spend that on a company, and then the company pays back I wouldn't go back to the central bank. The company pays the the individual pays the company pays the bank back pays the central bank back, something like that. But the underlying asset that they're using is money, and money has one characteristic. You know, it's like divisible by itself or whatever, and the smallest unit is 1 penny, and all these kind of different characteristics. When I give it you, I don't have it anymore. These kind of rules. However, there will be some kind of side effect to universal basic income. We don't know what it is yet. Some of it might be inflation. Maybe that's overhyped. Maybe inflation isn't that much because we had furlough, and that's not probably only done, what, 2%? The rest is gas prices, oil prices, just raw material costs, Brexit, all these different things. But whatever the bad thing is of universal basic income, you can have this other kind of universal basic income money-esque thing with slightly different properties. For example, over time, maybe it goes down in value. That's kind of like inflation already, so that wouldn't be that creative. Or the more times you pass this unit around to a person before it leaves a community, the more it's worth. So like if I give it to you and you're in my community, and you give it to Walter Brown, and then he gives it to someone else, right? With his little scrumpy fur. And then that person goes to Tesco's and buys something, and it leaves the community. There can be some kind of compounding effect where you get 1% cashback type vibe off it, or something like that. You can add these different characteristics.
What I don't understand
to the money.
is how you would get a digitally created currency that you can use in Tesco.
Because it will still be exactly. So you would need. So it would be. So you know how you have in America, you have food stamps. Even though that's not money, you can still go to Walmart with it.
That's issued by the government.
Yeah. And so would universal basic income.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a locally started
system. Okay. You were talking about universal basic income. Yeah, I thought you were talking about a digital currency that we create.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. If that's going to happen, if that's going to succeed, it's going to happen on its own, because people know about ledgers now and blockchain and stuff like that. So if that happens, I don't think we need to push that at all. It'll happen on its own. So why are we talking about these unique properties you can give to something that is seen as currency? Because I thought the same thing about trust. So now we'll go back to this idea that we started with in terms of the bank. So little Timmy has an idea. He goes, okay, if I get some money and this is 2012, and I go to Alibaba, and then I tell them to deliver it to an Amazon warehouse, and then I do some marketing and get some money, I can ask more from the Alibaba, get more economies of scale, buy a bigger product, get cheaper per thing. I'm a millionaire. Okay, but there's only one problem for Billy. He's a broke boy. Timmy's 16. He's got £250. That's not enough to start. So what does he need? He needs capital. So he goes to a bank or his dad or whatever, and there's an exchange between the two, and he now has more money. He takes that extra money, creates the system, and then pays the bank back what they're owed, and now he has this system that he owns, this company, and it was kick-started by the initial investment. So what's this bank done in effect here? I would argue that what this bank has done is, in a weird way, they've taken. So Timmy was doing milk runs, and he was getting £50 a week, let's say, and he needed £1,000. That's a lot of weeks. So however many weeks that is, this bank has looked into the future and gone, okay, so instead of Timmy going all the way into the future where he has £1,000, I'll just give him, £350 now, and so he can start the business now. And in the future, where Timmy would have had to be to start, now there's actually a massive company starting. So they've taken something from the value in the future and they've brought it to the present by providing this money, by risking this money. And in the community sense, I don't really have a symbol for this, but they're going to be trusted members, right? The trusted is usually a tick, isn't it, on social media? This looks like shore for men. So you're going to have trusted members. And so this is the idea of trust. Could there be a system where I'm Bio over here, okay, and this is Mario over here, and we don't know each other. So the things that we can do with one another are limited to whatever foreign protocol you have, right? When someone's foreign to you, when someone's unknown, when someone's a stranger to you, you have a certain protocol. And so that's what's limiting our interaction, because we both don't want to risk too much.
We don't have enough information
about one another. We don't know what, and then even if we didn't have that, we will have in a perfect world. We don't know enough about each other. You don't know what you like and what you're good at. You don't know what I like and what I'm good at. And so this trusted member in our case is our boy Gargo. Woohoo! He's going through it a little bit at the moment. He inputted a game and then the whole game just disappeared. So it's 90 minutes of we're trying to figure out. So that kind of sucks. But anyway,
like a glitch.
Yeah, something. So what Gargo in effect did is he brocked off a little bit of his trust, right, from his pile, as an analogy here, and he used it as collateral. And
backing who?
And backing the both of us, right? Because you know him, and I know him, but we don't know each other. So he takes some of his trust and says, guys, you can trust each other because you both trust me. And this kind of system here facilitates for an expedient connection between the two of us. Just as in the past with Timmy, he would have had to work into the future to get his £1,000, we would have had to, connect,
spend
time to know one another, and then here we could have done something. But now we can kind of start here. So we brought that thing from that value in the future. We brought it closer to the present, maybe not the immediate present, but we brought it closer to the present. And so that's kind of the idea of these are kind of the visions and the hopes that I had around trust. And then the final thing that I wanted to say before you break it down, demolish it, destroy it, is one of the things we want to do is quantize. Yeah, with an S, you Americans. Is quantized culture.
The only one watching this is Sakanda.
At the moment. Hey, bro! He's not even watching.
He might be watching.
Ooh.
I did tell him to message us if he was watching.
Zenib.
No, it was Zenib.
So, okay, we're on a quantized culture. And one of the reasons for that is I'm quite pragmatic in some ways. I don't want to tear down. So one of my bars in the past was I don't want a revolution, because a revolution is, from history's perspective, destructive and very disruptive. Now you could say we need a level of disruption. Fair enough. But do we need a level of destruction, especially if we're going to have to just rebuild those things again in the past, in the future? And so what does the capitalist system, we know what systems are now, what does the capitalist machine require? It requires quantization. Some of the earliest text ever to be recorded, I think it was, the ones where they press things into clay. It looks kind of like this. Sumerian, is it? Sumerian, I think it's called.
No idea.
So what they would do, they have a piece of clay, and they would take like a bit of bamboo, basically, and they would press into the clay, and it would create like a wedge shape like that. And then it started off as like you would create like a person, right? Like this would be like an eye or something, or a man. And then they would kind of start abstracting the words, and that's kind of how a lot of words start. For example, A, I think, came from ram, like a horn or something like. Anyway, So one of the earliest forms of tax we have is taxation. And in order to tax something, you need to quantify what's happening. You need to know there's this much grain, or there's this much stone, or whatever. So you need a quantization for the system to understand what's going on. Just like, for us to understand it, it has to be Porto or German or English. So for this capitalist machine to understand what's going on, it has to be quantized. So that's why I want to quantize culture. And part of that quantization could be then trust. And I just want to go one step further. Instead of just saying you have one user and one user has 1 unit of trust, right? Trust usually, money usually has like lines on it, right? 1 unit of trust, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We can do the thing that I was talking about up here, where you have, in terms of universal basic income, you can add additional properties to it. So why don't we simulate trust in some basic way? So instead of just having 1 in terms of just a number, you can actually have a volume of trust and then we use the claim system that is claimed by a particular user. Because this is a volume of trust, it has...
is it claimed or is it given? Who decides whether a person's trustworthy?
So exactly, we'll get into that in just literally just like 1 minute. And yeah, exactly. So this is part of the area that we need to clarify. That's amazing. So whether or not it's claimed or not, this unit of trust has a surface area and it has a volume because we're applying some physics properties to it. And just like a drop of water will evaporate, and the speed at which it evaporates depends on the environment that it's in and the surface area of the droplet, right? So if you had a droplet and it was a perfect bubble, it would take longer to evaporate than if you smeared it all across the table and it was really had a massive surface area. And so the idea would be there's some type of evaporation going on here of this
And
trust.
what would determine the surface area?
The size, right? The more.
But it's not only size of water, because you can have a blob that exists or in a glass, and then you can throw it on the floor and it'll evaporate faster. So what determines? Is it just size?
So I just wanted to keep it simple and just say you either have all your trust in one place, in which case it's like this, or you can divvy out your trust, in which case they're like tiny little dots. Now, already this doesn't really make sense, because if you divvy it out, you're increasing the surface area, not decreasing the surface area. This would actually be decreasing the surface area. So I wanted to create some kind of system where if you keep it in one blob all to yourself, it's evaporating. The larger it gets, the faster it evaporates. But if you give it out, if you do what Gargo did and you hedge and you collateralize your trust in different engagements within the community,
could it grow?
It doesn't evaporate as quickly.
Doesn't it grow?
And then it probably grows, right?
Because if he's given us his trust,
now the only thing is, okay,
and we use that trust, and it works out, and it reinforces that Gargo is trustworthy, surely his trust should grow. The sheer act of our successful encounter with each other.
If it's successful.
Yeah.
If it's successful. If it's not successful, this collateral is up for grabs, right?
It doesn't evaporate.
Either evaporates or we try and take claim of it.
How could we take claim of it?
It would be like a gamification, right? Because that's the whole point of collateral. Is that if this thing fails, then you get this.
What? Okay, what I mean by that is I'd need to understand the properties of that to understand why we would be able to claim this if Gargo's put this on the line for us. I thought the collateral would evaporate. Because, well, neither of us deserve it. Like, we haven't done anything to get it. Or let's say Gargo put his trust in me, and I turned out to be a scumbag, then that trust would get transferred to you because you were wronged, and that's a way of the system correcting that wronging.
Or Gargo's system would equally deplete as much as yours did, or something like that.
Well, yeah, because he misplaced his trust.
Exactly.
But then, because I suffered, let's say, there's a mechanism by which this gets transferred over to you, and what if I have no trust?
To begin with.
Well,
then that means if you have no trust, then you have no connections.
Okay, or you could do that. Gargo gives me this trust, and you this trust, and if I turned out to be a scumbag, then that transfer would come here, and Gargo would obviously lose both of these, but you gain them. Right? That's another possibility.
That's the beautiful thing about these situations is once we start getting these games together, these little differences between I gain it, or Gargo gains it, or you gain it, or it evaporates, they create different incentives in terms of like game theory, right? In terms of now, because this kind of looks like now, I have an incentive to make you look like you're untrustworthy so that I can gain your trust. But at the same time, it comes at the expense of Gargo, who's a trusted member in the society.
And then
so
Gargo
at one point, it's right.
wouldn't
trust me as much if he doesn't believe me. If he doesn't believe me.
Dick, your boy just stole me trust.
Yeah.
I'm a walking red flag.
So what happened in 2008? I think this trust thing starts really well, right? So you have this trusted individual, or this big bank, and they start off with a little bit of money, and then they invest it, and they make more money, and they invest it and make more money, and all of a sudden it's like 2005, and I don't know why that circle's small, and they've got so much money. But they don't want to sit on it. They want to keep sloshing it around. They don't want it to evaporate, so to speak, right? They want to keep moving it. So now what happens? Here, this was trusted. Super AAA, mega AAA starred. Then it was super mega AAA no star. Then they're like, guys, can we go lower than AAA? They're like, guys, the reason we've got this big amount of money is because we've got all the mortgages and all the retirement pots and all this kind of, 401ks and stuff in here. Like we can't go lower than AAA. Like, okay. What if we take some C, some D, some E, and then put it in a box?
Garbage.
And then we take like a load of A though, bro. Like honestly, like loads of A and then some AAA. We put all this in a box and we call this AAA. Right. So what's happening is, the more trust this person got, or the more money they got, the more incentivized they are to take risks, outside risks. And so the thing, when you said before, what if you're an individual who doesn't have any trust? And I said, you're an individual that doesn't have any connections within this community. These are all members in the community. They're all connected to one another. If you have one very trusted individual, and they're basically saturated with, because they've hedged some trust here and they've collateralized some trust there, they can now have an incentive, because they're like this big now in the analogy, to hand a stranger some trust. And so just how these banks were in a position to lend mortgages to families who couldn't pay it back, or potentially couldn't pay it back, struggling families, this trusted individual has an incentive to lend trust to risky outsiders.
Is that a good or a bad thing? And I've got one more thing to discuss here, but go on.
I wouldn't really say it's good or bad. I think zoomed out, scaled out, it's valuable to have internal communities that are good, but at the same time, fundamentally, we're humans. Humans are mammals. Mammals are life. And life desires to grow, right? You just look at bacteria. The first thing it does is start dividing if it has enough food. And so that's a fundamental binary code, machine code in humanity because of our underlying programming. And so communities want to grow, need to grow. And the way they do that is either by having kids or letting in outsiders.
Okay, so this, I wrote too big to fail, but that's not actually what I mean. I took that from this. One of the problems, right, it was this scenario. I don't like when communities get too large. When a community gets too large, it's very difficult to be an actual participating member of that community because your marginal visibility is zero. It's like when you go onto TikTok right now and try to make an account, your visibility is tiny, and the amount of work that you have to put in is really, really tiny. In my opinion, is really high. In my opinion, this person taking, like, what's he basing this on? Why would I trust this individual? He's got so much trust to give away now. First of all, how did he get in that position? Like, we don't.
Okay. No. This angle is. I didn't think that's why I'm laughing, right? When you realize something.
Okay. What I mean. No, I know. What I mean here is, it doesn't mean that much if there's just one shaman in the group who's just got all the trust, and he's got so much trust that he no longer has any incentive to investigate whether someone's trustworthy or not, because that person could be a scumbag, come in and take everyone for all they've got. Right, but then this guy, he's just destabilized the entire.
Who is this guy? But you're not looking at it from his perspective. His value is the trust within his community. If the community gets scattered and fractured and they all start turning, into like leftist versus right or whatever, we're like, we were brothers last night, and now we're arguing about Trump. What's going on? Because there's politics, because Ben Shapiro came in. Then he is undermining his own value. So he has an incentive to see how trustworthy that person is.
No, it isn't. But then again, it's the same here. They undervalued their own systems because there was an incentive to keep stuff going. That's the point. It crumbled, didn't it? 2008 was the crumbling of all of this. All of this, gone. All of this, gone. Families lost. Bro, people lost their lives. Like, people were committing suicide because so many people were defaulting on their loans, right? So my thing is, one, should there be, and this is a value judgment, I personally, and I believe this about countries and systems of governance, you shouldn't allow it to get that big, because then it's very difficult to be a fully participating member. If your vote means basically nothing, what's the incentive to participate? And so and two, how do you stop someone from accruing a load of trust? I thought one of the properties was, if you don't give it away,
it evaporates.
Then it should evaporate. You should never get to a system where that person shouldn't just get trust, shouldn't just get a chance taken on them. That person should have to earn their way into that community.
But that's the thing.
And then it leads me to this other question of, can you use something else as collateral if you don't have a trust going into a community?
So let's say...
And then you don't have to rely on this guy to throw you a bone. Because what if he doesn't? Then where are you going to get it from? Then you're just like, say,
well, then you do the other, like, so... You're not. I feel like you're not sympathizing with the lady on the outside.
Of course, I'm sympathizing, but
how's she gonna get in with no trust? Imagine we're in the Amazon rainforest. We've got a little community going, and we see a stranger. First thing we go is, "What's going? Have you got a weapon?"
And then one guy with the trust is like, "Hey, let him in."
Well,
then he gets shot in the heart.
And then we kill that guy.
No, but he's already been killed by the stranger.
Yeah, but that's the thing. There's always a risk with a stranger. Stranger danger, bro.
Of course, there's a risk with a stranger. That's why you have to
at the same time, sometimes you are the stranger. How? Exactly.
This is what I mean. Okay. That's why it leads us to this question. But the answer, I don't think, should be. Whoa, that's like a weirdly fragmented answer.
Just like the economy.
We shouldn't just let that person in just because, hey, let's take a chance. Yeah, that might kill you, bro. So what can we use as collateral when, in the absence of trust, what can we use as collateral? Now we might decide that there should be a steeper hill to climb because you are a new member and stranger danger. Or we sympathize with that person and we're like, hey bro, we get it. We are those people on the outside. Just yawn. Just yawn.
What do you think you're being subtle? Yo, finally crying, dude.
I know! It's not satisfying enough.
That's
It's not real.
It is real.
Okay, so let's have that discussion. Do you agree
Does the guy
with me
have
here?
weapons?
Do you agree with me
Does
here?
the guy on the outside have weapons?
Eh?
Or is that his hands? Is
That's
he like this?
Hey!
Let me in!
So do you agree with me here? I know we kind of agree on this. We both have a similar view on the size of systems.
Not like, I guess, yeah, but I don't think we
it's
talk
also
about it
against,
like that.
we have. It's also against human nature. I know we have. It was like one of our first big discussions on surrounding this topic.
Because this is hitting, bro.
I'm glad.
So a few things. One thing is the conventional argument, right? So you start off with one individual interacting with another individual, they have baby, incest happens, and then the community gets larger and larger. Adam and Eve in that, right?
Oh yeah.
And you're saying that once the system gets so large, at one point it's so tiny, like that. I literally drew that, but you can't even see it.
Yeah.
That now I don't have, so utility is ability to manipulate your environment. And you have a social environment and a physical environment. And when you start becoming such a small fish in such a huge ocean, your ability to manipulate your environment becomes so small, it goes against your fundamental desire as a human being. So one
of the things I would say here is when you're in a large community, when it's not a community, I would argue, anymore. When you're in such a large grouping of people, like urbanization, one of the reasons why no one knows their neighbors anymore is, who do you choose to know? The people who are immediately next to you, when do you even see them? How often do you see your neighbors, apart from when you're leaving your house or re-entering your house, right? And I think that's because it's like the donkey who's equally hungry and equally thirsty, and it's caught in between the carrot and the water bowl, and it dies because it can't decide where to go to because it's equally hungry and thirsty.
Okay.
It's kind of that logic with, where do you even start to get to know people when you're living in such, like, who
abundance.
Do you know? Yeah. There's too much choice.
It's like dating, you have too many choices.
And that is debilitating for the individual. We weren't designed to have this many choices, right? Especially when not only now we live in urban communities, we also have the choice with internet friends, right? And so that's one reason why I think those things actually aren't sustainable. It pushes us, it's pushing us away from the ideas of community and actually caring and trusting and
keep going.
So that's one thing. And then also the human nature aspect of it. We aren't meant to know this many people. We aren't meant to be around this many people. And so I just don't think that systems are supposed to exist with this number of people. Like, isn't it cool that we all back the same stuff and unity is commonality or whatever? Sure, that's fine. That's great. That wasn't sarcasm. It is a beautiful principle, but it means less when it's the whole of the world. Like, we're all human.
Alright. Why are you going to say it like that, dude?
No, but that doesn't mean anything then. If it involves everyone, then there's not really unity. That's everyone. If it's like, we're all living things, okay. That's all plants, that's all bacteria, That's not like, there's no unity if it encompasses so many people. There's nothing. Part of human nature is belonging, and I don't think that means belonging to the largest possible group. It means building a connection on something that you and I share, but not that many other people share. You know what I mean? Otherwise, why would I be your friend and not a billion other people's friend?
But is it because you can't?
Yes, I can. What are you talking about?
Or what have I missed? I think I missed it.
There's 100,000 people out there.
Yeah.
Right, literally just walking around.
Driving
around, right? I could potentially
make a different friend.
Make a different friend, right? But why don't I? Like, what's stopping you and I right now from going out?
Cost.
Of what? Of what? What's the opportunity cost of what?
Because it takes time to nurture a connection with someone.
But also, I don't know them. They could be murderers. As a woman, it's a genuine possibility that I'm scared of. And there's no connection to them whatsoever.
Even though we're in the same group.
If you said, if we're walking down the street and you were like, no, Mario, I'm going to give this man some of my trust, I'd be like, you can give him some of your trust, mate, but I'm not buying it, I'm off. I trust you. You're a bit mad. So that's
but but that's the thing. That's the cost benefit analysis that individual has to make. If I give this individual trust now, and this woman up here,
this is
$2
fine in smaller communities. It's fine in smaller communities. Yeah. It just means less in larger communities. That's what I mean. The idea of having such large communities is just a bit weird to me. I think you lose the sense of we need to. Yeah. I believe one of the characteristics of community is size. If something gets so large, then it's just a population. It's not a community anymore. It's
like, what did you say? Was it Stalin or Marx? It was like, one death is a tragedy, 1,000 deaths is a statistic, or something like that.
I don't know.
Like, once you get to a certain scale,
it's why when one person dies like on a boat, it's really sad and it's in the news. But when 1,000 Iraqis die or 1,000 people die in an earthquake, they're just faces in a crowd. It's like, okay, 1,000.
So could you write this want down?
What's want? Also, I don't think I'm articulating it particularly well.
No, I think you are. No, I think you are. We'll just looking at the lampshades, looking at the plumbing, just getting more familiar with it. I really like this place. Great location.
Just well.
Could you just talk about in terms of what you were talking about, how people want to be like you said something like people want to be part of a small community or something like that.
Like people
could you articulate that in like different wants of the individual? Because I want to show the flip side to that, which is you said people don't want to be part of the largest community, largest group. And I think no, you don't have to defend yourself.
They do though. They do.
But I don't think they do. I think you're right. I don't think they do. But there are benefits to belonging to the largest group.
I also think
if you're part of the horde, then you're pretty safe in the middle of the horde. Because on the outskirts, all your killers are killing.
For example, TikTok. Why is everyone on TikTok? Everyone wants to make it on TikTok. People don't just want to be creators on TikTok. They want to be successful creators.
The thing is, a lot of people don't post. Way more people don't post than I thought. Even people who write comments.
Yeah.
I'm like going through them.
Yeah, most people don't. Most people just interact with the community. And more people don't even interact with the community.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people just take and not give in return, which is fine. It's not a leech on TikTok. It's probably better for the system if there isn't, because that's, again, what do you watch if there's everything in the world to watch?
You know what it is, kind of. There's already too much to watch.
Exactly, and how does that feel? It's debilitating. It actually is. It feels. It actually feels.
You're not gonna write it. I'll write it.
Go on.
Be part of small community?
People want to be a small fish in a small pond rather than a tiny fish in a big pond. And this is beautiful because we can go out tomorrow and ask people, are we right about this? And if we're not, then we're not. Cool. Or the smallest possible fish, like literally plankton, amoebas in the sea.
But you don't get in smaller. It's just your environment's larger, so your relative size.
No, you do get smaller. Of course, you get that, but that's.
I'm still massive on TikTok. Well, I'm not massive on TikTok, but I'm still a massive youth.
No, you're not.
My persona is still.
You're just a cog in the creative machine. If there was a platform with 10 people.
No, relatively, I'm tiny. Like in the ocean, I'm tiny.
Everything's relative, right?
Yeah, but you're downsizing, like you're the same fish.
You're not the same fish. It's
you're the
all
same
relative.
Fish.
It's not about that. You are literally, everything is relative.
Alright, Einstein.
Everything is relative.
I'm not saying it isn't. But with this analogy.
It's redundant to say it is.
With this analogy, you're saying, would you rather be a hench dude in a small house or a tiny, scrimpy, pathetic, weak morsel of a...
That's not true. I said small fish.
And then you said like amoeba or something.
But by relativity, you do become much tinier.
But if you become tinier, then your environment's larger.
But you also
then
become
your environment's
tinier.
smaller.
Both scale. Why does it only scale one way?
Because it's all relative, bro.
Exactly.
No. If you're scaling down and up, then exactly. Stop being
fair.
Stop being fair. Plankton.
In
ocean.
The...
No one wants to be an amoeba. Sounds like an audio we could make. No one wants to be an amoeba. You know, viruses kill 1/3 of bacteria in the ocean every day. Incredible, isn't it?
Like this. So soon there'll be no bacteria in the ocean. Or you mean it grows faster, or it grows at the same rate?
Yeah, that's equilibrium.
Wow.
You can really dance.
You can really murder. Did we just get banned again? Yo, I need to be stopped. But you just say the K word.
Korean.
Banned.
Start doing a dance move.
Do the Gangnam stuff.
That's the way they dance, bro.
That was amazing to see. Okay, alright. That's one thing. It's not even, right. It's not even, I would say that this feels better than this.
Oh, what a surprise.
But let's go find out, innit? I'm not trying to, okay, this is my claim.
Excuse me, do you like feeling like an amoeba?
Claim.
An amoeba? I'd rather be a sheep because in the winter it gets cold.
And you get your butt cheeks ripped off.
Only in Australia.
It's everywhere.
Supply line transparency. So what I want to say is stop playing around, bro. This is a serious topic.
I'm not playing. I genuinely believe this. I genuinely believe that communities can become so large that they are no longer communities.
I agree.
One of the fundamental characteristics
if you
of community
believe it,
is size.
If you believe it, you don't have to make this ridiculous analogy. You can just let the coins fall where they lay, and the truth will emerge because you believe in the truth, and the truth will always shine through.
You mean I don't have to manipulate people
exactly
by
talking
the
organisms. Yes.
You know what, Bio? You make a lot of sense. dare you?
I just got rid of your claim. I was doing it before I even realised. I just eradicated
What?
the claim.
Why have you got rid of all of it?
Because I wanted it one way and you didn't help me further my vision, so I'm getting rid of it. I'm throwing all the problems out of the trolley.
That's horrible. You always say don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Listen, I'm throwing the bath out too.
Set the house on fire.
When you see a spider in the corner, set the house on fire. A meaningful part of a community.
Fundamental characteristics. Wow, you're just going to override me again, pretend like you didn't hear that and not even acknowledge my words. Yeah, you better write that line flat. Meaningful part of a community, full stop. What is it?
First of all, no full stop. Secondly, wants. Because I want to simulate what's going on.
What are you talking about? What's a want? First of all, put me on the same page as you, bro.
Listen, Socrates. The normal definition.
Which is what?
A human want, a desire, a request, a requirement.
Oh, human beings want to be a meaningful part of a community.
Yes, exactly. That's why
that was not clear. And where's the pen? Want.
See, that's what I mean. Want.
To be clear.
But want is a thing. Like want is a.
This looks like an incomplete sentence without this.
Oh, okay. Because the thing is, a want is like.
Yeah.
It's like a ledger. It's like a ledger.
Yeah, I've
almost.
studied economics. I know what are we talking about now? I didn't understand before because of how we wrote stuff. Okay. All right, go.
Your son is looking titillating. Tantalizing.
Wouldn't it be cool if we could work outside and we didn't live in a country that was really windy?
We have the wind mic thing, sort of.
You can't put your laptop in the sun. Apparently it's going to set on fire or something. So.
Get an umbrella. We use the umbrella.
I need to pee.
We need to drink a lot today.
Yeah. It is drinky day. Dinky day.
Dinky drinky. I'm gonna do some exercises.
so nice. I just felt the heat on my feet.
Hello, friends.
So another thing is meaningful part. Feel. They want a sense belonging. But also, I think here, meaningful puts a limit on size. That would be my claim.
That's the claim. Yep.
Here, another one is they want to feel like they're heard. They want, another one is obviously they want, they don't need to want. They want a feeling of importance. And they want to be heard, not. Claim. Bunch of claims right there. Is this my glass?
Yep. Jesus Christ.
Oh God, oh, that must have been so loud. I'm so sorry.
Would you like to explain?
What? All of those? I think all of those are quite intuitive.
Okay.
Do you not think? I think this is kind of a sense of belonging, a feeling of importance. I guess the need to be heard is part of a feeling of importance and belonging. So it's probably an offshoot of 2 and 3. And 1, probably. But these are all wants that have kind of been agreed by philosophers across history. This is nothing new. I would argue. It's not,
I mean, most of the stuff. So when I was first trying to conceptualize these ideas in like 2017 maybe-ish, it used to be called UCE. And I think, or was it UTE? It was kind of like utilitarian expression, harmony, something like that. And I was explaining that to a family friend in Germany. And my dad, worrying that I'm becoming less and less like someone who will study medicine, says...
How old are you? Oh, 20, 23?
Something like that, right? And he said, this is nothing new, right? And
who said that? Your dad?
My dad. Yeah, but this is nothing new. It's a light criticism, basically. And I actually don't take that as criticism. I take that as a given, a strength, and a part of the actual thing that we're doing. Yeah. Is that instead of trying to create something new.
Yeah, we're not trying to revolutionize the whole world.
What's the value of the internet? Access to information. So let's find the things that are universally or locally seen as true and amalgamate them in a way that is useful for the youth or the people in the community. And that's the thing that we're making. Yeah. Structured truth in a way. Amalgamated truth.
Or access to truths.
Yeah. Or a way to access truths or to determine
exposure to truths.
Yeah.
Which?
Or exposure to things which you can then deem the value of, or that's the kind of idea. Yeah. So to be heard and to be heard not. Are you being witty? To To be heard, not heard. That's a TikTok right there. As you were writing that, so yeah, I think these are really good in terms of wants. Now,
there's obviously an infinite more wants. Yeah, but these are fundamentals. I think that are present.
Prioritize and that, you can have a want number 7,000.
Exactly.
Is like, slightly warmer on my left butt cheek or whatever. It's like, okay.
We have different wants.
7,000. What's your want number 7,000?
World peace.
World peace is 7,000.
Yo, don't worry, man. I got my own stuff to worry about.
That's intense. Okay. So, contrary, opposition to this, right? Opposite tool. People want to be part of a small community, basically.
You opposite tooling human wants. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is Dajjal.
Satan.
Fish in the sea.
Being part of a large group. Being one in a million. That's not a million.
That is a million. Oh, that's 100,000.
Being one in a million.
I think a billion is 1,000 million. Isn't that crazy? People have that much. Well, no, they don't have that much money, but
they have that much net worth. Bless you.
That was bad. That must have been so loud.
That was directly
before I hit this as well.
I'm crazy right now. The amoebas.
Amoebas. Put some respect on their name. They literally started all of this that you see, as far as your eyes can see. That's amoebas doing, mate. They've got a claim on all of this. They got a claim on all of us.
And so, in contrast to that, just a side point.
I really want to pull that one hair out for the love of God, please.
I will act accordingly in the laws of self-defense. Okay. Being... See, you always hide behind that. Being one in a million can make you very strong. Now, it's just a passing comment. So, and then here, there's a quick thing where you're writing those wants down. Saying meaningful. Mario's claim is a limit on size. Here.
It would be cool if you had two of these.
Right at the same time.
Drawing boards, so people could see this. Future
well, in
one.
The future, we have the camera here.
641.
Mario remembers to bring the camera, and then we can just show it like this.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's in a large group. There are still people that are meaningful.
100%.
Right.
Oh.
And so here, this triangle is the hierarchy. What are we talking about? Are these meaningful people? The top, 10%?
Probably top 1.
And so in a small group, the thing that you are kind of vouching for based on this claim, or the opposite of this.
You're right.
The sun rays charge me up. In a small group, what would that hierarchy structure look like? A question to you.
So then you could do a hierarchy based on trust, and it would be the same principle of hierarchy. It would be those who give the most to the community. But I guess in a smaller group, unless it's like a wild cult,
it's like a flatter structure.
It's a lot flatter, I would say. And hierarchies...
Is that why we press for democracy? Because as we get more and more, the hierarchy, to become meaningful, you need to be higher and higher. So we all kind of want to be the same, so we can kind of pull the meaningfulness back into us in this expanding world.
We could have a conversation about democracy and why it's lasted for so long, like as an idea from Aristotle to today.
What's that? A good 7,000?
Yeah, 7, I'd say. Maybe 5,000.
Solid duration. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Here, we need a break soon because my head is getting pressurized.
Also, I think in smaller communities, hierarchies can be decided by the members within them. They can decide they don't want hierarchies. To the extent that that's possible, I don't know, but they can experiment. That's the cool thing about being a smaller group. You can kind of do more things. You can experiment more.
And more things are viable, I feel like, on a smaller group in terms of social hierarchy, in terms of, right, because if you talk about, yesterday we made a list of polygamy and monogamy, and in the world that we're in right now, I am of the opinion that having multiple partners is very difficult, just because the way society is structured and scale has a large part of that. But if you're a group of like 100 people, you see that in Africa, I'm sure you see it in other places, where they have these smaller communities. You still have a wife, but you also have girlfriends. You have a husband, but you still have boyfriends. And when everyone knows them, the risk is less. When you were raised with that guy, it's not some dude taking your wife. It's literally James. It's a different vibe.
And also, if you have a common understanding that it's not cheating per se. It's not you're taught different things about jealousy, and I think jealousy is a very natural human emotion.
Definitely.
But I think it can be overcome to an extent. Not in its entirety, but definitely to an extent. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
That's a large conversation. So here, the last three things I want to kind of get up, then we can kind of summarize it.
What does that say? Unionize.
So, the conventional argument against...
What does that say?
Unionize, you got it right.
That's not how you spell unionize. UNIONISE.
That's basically the same thing.
That looks like universe. I'm the only person on the planet that would have said that says unionize.
Listen, mate.
You're lucky I was here.
Listen, mate. I was typing this frantically, so the idea didn't stop, and I didn't want to. That was me, okay? So, in this universe, so the conventional argument against the conventional argument, I don't want to say against to make you too defensive, but the argument against being too large scale is that you are just this little itty bitty amoeba, but you can unionize.
Yep.
And they are these little itty bitty amoebas, and they can unionize. This is a trade union. This is a community.
Yeah.
And then through this, we can say, we're all going to vote for this politician, or we're all going to go on strike. And suddenly we have manifested a meaningful experience within large 100%. Scale.
100%. 100.
Okay.
Don't disagree with that whatsoever. How is that an argument against?
Because you're saying you need small communities.
But that's the community. That's the community, not this.
So you say every union has to have a community? It can't just be an agreement, then it won't work.
But a union might not necessarily be a community. I don't know. It might just genuinely be something that... Sorry. Ow! It could be something... It could be a community. It could not be a community. I just don't think that this is a community. That's all I'm making a judgment about. This might be a community. Within that community, you might have other little communities. You know what I mean? You can have communities within communities. Can you? Yep. Theoretically, I guess. Okay. But this whole thing, you can have a non-meaningful community then. Maybe you can have a community that doesn't mean anything. Not doesn't mean anything, means less. Let's just say.
Still isn't scratching that want. Still isn't delivering on that want.
Exactly. It's probably good for like safety in numbers and
exactly.
But does it feed the want?
That's exactly what that is. Safety in numbers. See, everyone's getting deleted out here, okay? It's not just you.
Mashallah. That's a different blue from the blue on the thingy, right? It's not just my eyes glitching.
It's the same as the splits. It's the same as the binary tool.
Yeah, but it's not the same as this, right? Yeah, it's darker.
It is. Mashallah. So that's that. I'm glad we got that out of the way. A bit of brown. Here, what if? So I was thinking of a mechanic, right? Maybe the physics analogy doesn't work. I love physics. Maybe I don't know enough about it to make it to be creative in that field, or B, it's just misplaced, or C, it doesn't work, and we just have to make rules and say there's no correlation with reality to those rules, which is a little bit slightly upsetting to me, because I think if you can make these rules of things like money or things like trust have some alignment with our understanding of reality, they're more intuitive and they're more robust.
But most people don't understand physics, including ourselves. We're not like...
Yeah, but evaporation,
Evaporation's fine. I don't...
You know what I mean?
Okay. So the evaporation is intuitive.
Okay,
exactly. And I'd say part of why it's intuitive is because...
You can see it.
And because you learn it at such a young age, or maybe you learn it at such a young age because it's intuitive. But it is intuitive, but you don't learn about the really complex parts of physics, so we don't need to model things out of that with the hope of being intuitive, because a lot of physics is really not like double slit experiment that ain't super intuitive at all.
It's the opposite of intuitive. And so, what's like split? What if just how we have an incentive to, well, with money, you have inflation. So that gives you an incentive to keep the money passing around and you don't hoard it. And with trust, you have evaporation, which incentivizes you to give it away and not hoard it. What if we have a similar thing for communities? That once a community gets to a certain critical mass, similar to if you keep, so there are certain things on the periodic table, underneath the periodic table, that little bar underneath it. And they're usually radioactive substance, isotopes or whatever. And then the further you go down, the heavier they get, right? So the more neutrons usually that are in the atom. And the reason they're not really natural is because we take something that's quite heavy and we bombard it with neutrons. So it's adding neutrons. And because it's just so heavy and so unstable, it lasts for like a nanosecond and then it just breaks down into something else. And so when a community gets to a certain size, potentially we can say that start off arbitrary, maybe based on certain kind of science, where you have the rules of like 5,000 people, 2,000 people that you can see, faces that you can remember, then 1,000 of the 250 meaningful connections, 50 strong connections, whatever. Once it gets to these kind of sizes, this thing starts becoming unstable.
Yeah.
And then we have some kind of event that's triggered in terms of a gamification of it, or some kind of song or whatever, where now it's like this thing starts fracturing. And these fractures are maybe narratives that are starting to form within the community that are no longer in alignment with all the people, right? So if you have 10 of us and we all believe murder is wrong, but now there's 100 of us and some of us are like, I don't like murder, and then there's 1,000 of us and they're like, murder is necessary sometimes, and there's 1,000,000 of us and they're like, of course everyone murders. So you have these narratives that are incongruent with the whole, and they can maybe start being the fracture lines at which the community. It's lines and circles. The fundamental.
Stop. Yeah, that's beautiful. Don't you think? I think there's something really beautiful about that.
Oh.
I don't know why.
Stop gassing me up.
I'm not. Just don't delete it. I like it.
Oh. Okay, so that's that. So maybe we can, with a similar mantra that I applied to trust, what you illuminated, maybe we should apply that to community based on these wants.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. You said we've spoken about it. We definitely haven't spoken about it, but it's hit me differently.
We haven't spoken about it in this sense, but we spoke about it in governance systems, where I said, remember we were talking about the commune?
Yeah.
And I said that even the commune itself, it has to be of a particular size. It can't be too big, because then it becomes unstable. There's too many moving parts. You can't know that many people that well, and the community is relying on trust. and visibility. And I think you lose a lot of visibility when you keep adding members. And then you were talking about, it's crazy that people think that one dude can govern like 1 billion people or like 250 million people. That's kind of ridiculous. And they're gonna have policies that are gonna just make everyone happy. That's ridiculous. It's never gonna happen ever. So that was the conversation, if you remember that, but it wasn't in this detail. But one thing before we move on is this.
Can we use something other than trust?
Because there will be people coming into communities without trust. Right? Whether they've been wronged in other communities, or we decide when you enter a community you don't have trust, because that's a normal thing. Like in the real world, you don't come in and people are like, oh, come on in, pal, until you've done something wrong, we won't trust you. In the real world, human nature is that person's a bit odd until I know that person isn't odd.
Right?
Pretty
much,
So you come in, you've got no trust. What do you use as collateral?
Wait, this is your... I mean, I thought trust was like money. I thought it was the fundamental thing. I mean, you can do acts of service and things like that.
Yeah, you could do something so there could be ways where, you know how you can do jobs to earn money? You could do things in a community. Like
community service kind of, but without the prison sentence attached.
Yeah, but that's beautiful because instantly you're instilling in people that
oh my days, imagine 2040 immigrants come over, they're like, how can we trust these immigrants as well? Well, you know, Jadith over here, that's not a real name, did 400 hours of community service, and every time he was on time and and that goes towards his trust that he's building within the community. Like you always see him there, doing whatever he can do, you know, whatever he can offer the community.
And that's a very human thing, I think.
Very human.
And they're like, oh, you've got credentials? All right, cool, come on in.
And you've seen them, like you said, visibility goes down. In the community, you see them there.
Doing stuff, and they're present, and you're kind of like, all right, that person's not dangerous. That's all right.
And they're not just in the house, speaking their own language, maintaining their own customs, not interacting with the wider community. Which is, you know, no value judgment, because that's the comfortable thing to do. That's the safe thing to do. Why would I go out there in this foreign land? People look at me a certain way. I can't even really get the food that I want. I can't talk the way I want. I can't, you know.
Still, I can't do the things
I don't have commonality, so I don't feel that unity.
And the burden is entirely on me to like learn the culture, learn the validity of that. We're not making a judgment about, but you can understand where that individual's coming from.
Absolutely. So that I think, oh wow, yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, acts of service, I think, would be the answer. But the thing is, it's a bit of a chicken or the egg one, because the acts of service result in trust, do they not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just a mechanism to gain trust.
Yeah.
As opposed to something else.
Jobs are a mechanism to gain money. Yeah.
Fantastic, brilliant, magnificent. And here, here, this was an idea that I had, and I thought it was a perfect time to bring it up. And it's the idea that we have too many options. You can have your taken, but I'm a single Pringle. When you're a guy on a dating app, it's usually probably like 3 to 1 for a woman, roughly 2 to 1, 3 to 1. So from the woman's perspective, you have 3, for every person you like, you have like an extra 2 or 3 dudes liking you. So you've got this abundance.
Probably more than that.
Way more than that. Because guys like more than girls. There's lots of factors.
Probably like 20 to 1, 30 to 1.
In terms of the actual inbound that you're getting on the app, definitely, yeah. But the thing is, not all those likes are genuine. That's why I kind of factored it down a bit. And you don't want the same thing anyway. Women have loads of inbound, and the thing with guys is, I feel I'm making just a statement here. A guy would match with a woman that is less attractive than him more readily than a woman will match with a man that's less attractive. Actually, that's not, see, I can't quite quantify it, but let's say you've got, let's just use statistics. You have 100 matches, a guy has 10 matches. Out of those 10, this woman is number 1. She's a 1/10. But this is a top 10% woman for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman, her top 10% is 100 dudes out of the 1,000. And out of those, there are 10 top 1% dudes. And so now, out of all the options you have creme de la creme opportunities. And so, all this to say, we're not meant to have this much choice in terms of romantic connections, friend connections, all these different types of social connections. When we have too much choice, our mind is trying to optimize the best thing we should be doing, naturally, right? Why would I go for the 100th when I can go for the 50th, when I can go for the 1st? Even if the first guy is actually not giving you the same kind of energy as the 100th guy or whatever. So that's the problem of choice. And now, if we imagine this circle in the middle as an individual, they have a ring of influence around them. And I was just spitballing. I was thinking the ring of influence would maybe have to do with how introverted or how extroverted you are. And I envisioned a world where you have your phone, and your phone says, for the week, you've got one person inbound, one person outbound, and maybe some. And these are your connections.
What are these inbound and outbound? Sorry.
These are in other users. These are other users over here.
What's an inbound and what's an outbound?
So, let me try and tell you what it's trying to do, and maybe that makes it clearer.
Okay.
You start the week on Monday, whatever, and you have a list of people. So obviously, you can still use WhatsApp. You can still but in terms of your way to navigate social media, you have a list of people on that social media. And they're the people you can interact with for that week. And the more you interact with them, the closer you get to them. And the less you interact with them, the further they go away. And based on your previous preferences or your wants, for example, you have users that will enter your circle of influence during the week, and you have users that will leave your circle of influence during the week. And so it's a way to automate this infinite choice that we have of friends that we can have. So instead of going on TikTok and making a video and getting 50 likes and and being like, I have the potential to make 50 friends and and I have to go on each of their profiles, and we take some of that freedom away. We try and automate it into, even it could be random potentially, and then limit the amount of people that we can interact with to try and negate that problem of too much choice.
Yeah. That's really cool. I like that idea.
So that's kind of the idea. Like, you have a dude, you have the circle of influence, and then you have people getting closer and further away.
I still don't understand what's an inbound and an outbound. Inbound are the people you're allowed to speak to.
Inbound are people that will intersect with. So if you look to see the vector here, this trajectory, you can see that it's going to intersect here. So that'll be an inbound. And by the end of the week or next week, he's going to keep going, right? It's going to keep going that way, so it'll be an outbound. So if you imagine this like a big billiard table and all these balls are just going everywhere, but you have a circle of influence.
What's the circle of influence?
That's basically how close a user has to be before you can interact with them.
Okay. And people are, the direction in which people are moving is random?
So the direction in which the people are moving could be in terms of their wants, for example, or their interests, the community that they're trying to find. So if it's like a community finder, right? We all want to find our tribe. I think that's the thing that can really bring you happiness. So if you have all these people here, they set their wants and they try and find their tribe. And so as the process or the simulation runs, certain groups start forming and collecting together, and they start moving in unison. People stay on their own or move from one group to the other.
Okay, so part of this is, I would say, the same kind of Sneezes plus.
Wow.
The same kind of principle that we've applied now to our week, right? Where part of being able to do anything at any time means that you don't really do much, because there's always, I can do it later. Like, oh, we can do it tomorrow. Whereas now, if you don't grind on grind day, you can't grind until next week. And then you carry that guilt. If you've got, so for women, let's say, you have so many choices on dating apps that if you could only match with someone for like 3 days at a time and decide whether there's a meaningful connection there, that would be better for those women, because a lot of women, because they're so overwhelmed by choice, they stop going on the app because they're like, oh god, this is so boring. It's always guys, similar guys, and there's so much choice, you end up not choosing anyone or not putting any weight on
any one connection,
conversations. You're kind of just like bored of all of them. So it's a similar principle to that, right?
Small caveat would be, when we make our dating app, I think the key to a dating app is not have it a dating app. I think making something a dating app puts too much contextual pressure on the interaction. Like the guy has to, like, I can only really speak from the guy's perspective, but like, on the one hand, do you want to be really entertaining, or do you want to be really interesting, or do you want to be really flirtatious? And these things are kind of somewhat separate. It's kind of difficult to meld them together, and you only have like one message chance because she has so much choice. But if you have a system where you're generally trying to find people who are like you,
then you look for your
men
tribe.
and women. And then in that process, you're like, okay, so there are 10 people here, or there are 100 people here. These are the single ones. Let's match. And then just a final cherry on top. I would like them to try out the mechanic of other people trying to match people together. Because that's kind of what happens a lot of the time is, how did you meet this person? Oh, well, my mate's girlfriend's sister's brother knew this person, and they knew that person, and they were like, you'd be really good with, it's George or whatever, and then that's how
they go on a date.
Then they go on a date, right? So it's other people matching people as opposed to the algorithm matching people, and
That's
maybe
cool.
that adds
That's
more.
the traditional human aspect.
Human aspect. So we might have to come back to trust, because it is very fundamental, and this thing here.
That will build over time.
Yeah,
I think we don't need to come back right now to it.
So just how banks take value from the future and put it in the present by loaning money, trusted individuals within a community can lend their trust so that human connections can be made now.
It doesn't have to be a trusted individual. It's anyone with even the smallest bit of trust. Let's say I do community service and I earn a bit of trust. Now I've got a little sister who wants to enter the community, and I'm like, I trust this girl with my life. So I'm going to give her all my trust to do something. She does something, my trust grows and her trust grows. So it doesn't have to be just a trusted individual.
So by trusted, I don't mean the most trusted, like necessarily.
The grandparents.
Even though I do expect that to happen at some point. Because you're going to have that social hierarchy, right? You're going to have people who are more trusted and less trusted.
Well, some people can create systems out of trust, where it's like that's the thing that they do. They're just there's some people who are going to be very good
connectors, basically.
Exactly, connectors. Yeah.
Yo, that was a slap and a fist one at the same time. Alrighty. Is it 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock. You said you wanted to eat at 2 some time ago, a few weeks ago.
Or foreshadowing. Bye.
1 hour 44.